This day in sports history.
Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
And welcome back to This Dish, a member of the Sports History Network. It's September 18th, and on this day in 1999, a 35-year-old rookie debuted in the majors and inspired a movie. It's one of those amazing stories that if it didn't actually happen and you saw a movie about it, you'd say, that's too fantastical. There's no way that could ever happen. Maybe back in the 1800s or the 1940s when the younger guys were all fighting the war, maybe a 35-year-old guy could come in and break into the majors and do what he did. But at the end of the 20th century? Nah, that could never happen. And yet, it did. And then it became a Disney movie. Now, Jim Morris didn't exactly come out of nowhere. He'd been a first-round draft pick by the Milwaukee Brewers out of junior college in 1983. He never really got his chance, though, spending a lot of time on buses, making a little bit of money, watching other kids move up and move on, and then the injuries came. He blew out his shoulder, he had major elbow surgery. By 1987, the dream had faded, reality had set in, and he had settled down with wife Laurie in San Angelo, Texas. He kept his arm limber by throwing batting practice to the guys on the Howard Payne University team, and the velocity on his fastball came back, so much so that the Chicago White Sox gave him another chance in 1989. Facing young, hungry Lions in single-A ball, his then 90-mile-an-hour fastball was raw meat that they dug their teeth into and ripped to shreds. So Morris retired for the second time. He decided to go back to college, and while he was at Angelo State, he did some punting. As a 28-year-old sophomore in 1992, he actually led the nation in punting at the Division II level, averaging 45 yards a kick, and earned D2 All-American honors. So that's all to say that he was out there. This wasn't some magic bean scenario. He became the father to 3 kids and settled in as the science teacher at Reagan County High School in Big Lake, Texas. And if you've seen the movie, then you know what happens next. Morris is still pitching batting practice and still bringing the heat. His varsity players are impressed with him, and they encourage him to pursue his dream just like Morris has been encouraging them to pursue theirs. So they made a pact. If Reagan County won the district title, then Morris had to go to a major league tryout. So when Reagan won the district title on June 19, 1999, Morris was obligated to find a tryout. But how do you do that when your wife works full-time and you've got 3 kids who are all at home on summer break? Well, you take your 3 kids with you. On a hot, humid Texas summer afternoon, Morris and his 3 kids showed up for a Tampa Bay Devil Rays tryout in Brownwood. It was one of those days in Texas where you don't have to move, just standing around causes sweat to pour off of you, and that's in the shade. Rays scout Doug Gassaway was tired. He was questioning his own life choices, watching scrub after scrub live out their baseball fantasy in front of him. And here came 35-year-old Jim Morris? What the hell is this? Gassaway was eager to get back into his air-conditioned car and be on his way. Well, the first pitch that Morris threw hit 94 on the radar gun. Well, that ain't right, Gassaway thought. He looked at the radar gun as if something was wrong with it. Maybe it, like him, had been out in the sun too long. Morris's next pitch came in at 96. Hey, there's something wrong with this thing, he said to the guy next to him. Nope, that thing's working fine. Next, 95, then a string of 12 straight in the upper 90s. Gassaway was absolutely shocked. He'd traveled most of the back countries of the U.S., and he had never seen anybody throwing smoke like this at a tryout. The Rays wanted another look in a couple of days, with more people watching. Morris impressed them a second time, and he signed a contract to play in the minor leagues again. He worked off a few pounds first, and then he went to Double-A Orlando. After 3 games, his ERA was 1.8. He was moved up to Triple-A Durham in North Carolina. He appeared in 18 games there and pitched solidly. When the Bulls' season ended, he figured, that's it. He packed up his truck and he started plotting his route back to Texas. But the Rays were not done with him yet. He was going to Texas, all right, but he was going to be in Arlington when Tampa played the Rangers. First game, September 18th. Lori and the kids made the 4-hour drive, and they were in the seats that night. Lori said that the tears started flowing when she caught sight of her husband in the bullpen before the game. Bobby Witt got the start for the D-Rays on this night. He went 6 innings, struck out 5, walked 3, gave up 6 runs, 5 of them earned. In the 7th, trailing 6-1, Jeff Sparks was brought out of the pen, and he pitched an inning and 2/3. And then Rays manager Larry Rothschild made the move. He brought in Jim Morris, the 35-year-old rookie, wearing number 63, in to pitch. In front of 37,000, Morris made his debut in the majors, fulfilling the dream that had started 16 years earlier. At the plate for the Rangers was Royce Clayton, the 8th man in the lineup. His first pitch was a 95-mile-an-hour heater on the outside part of the plate that Clayton fanned. His second offering was another 95-mile-per-hour fastball that Royce chased out of the strike zone. Royce fouled off a 96-mile-an-hour fastball, and then on the next 0-2 pitch, he got Clayton to bite on some high ched for the strikeout. Tampa couldn't muster any runs in the top half of the 9th, and so the game ended with Morris just facing the one batter. 2 nights later, he was in Anaheim. He was brought in the 8th inning again, his team trailing 10-5. He got Jim Edmonds and Mo Vaughn to fly out to center, and then got Tim Salmon to ground out to short for a 1-2-3 inning. He would pitch in 3 more games in the tail end of the '99 season. He came back in 2000 and pitched in 16 games, finishing with a 4.35 ERA. Elbow pain at the end of the season forced his 3rd and final retirement. Movie studios learned of Morris's story soon after his debut on this day and contacted the Devil Rays to start negotiations. Disney won the rights to the story, and in March of 2002, The Rookie, starring Dennis Quaid as Morris, debuted in theaters. On this day in 1982, it was a father-son battle on the gridiron. John Elway was the senior quarterback for Stanford on his way to finishing second in the Heisman voting to Georgia's Herschel Walker. His dad, Jack, was the head coach of the San Jose State Spartans. Only 15 miles separate Palo Alto from San Jose, and this family feud was a close one too. John's Stanford team had won in 79 and 80. Jack's Spartans had taken the win in 81. CBS covered this game in 82, and they did a feature piece with the Elway family that ran before the game. There was a lot of love and a healthy respect between father and son that came through in that story, but they were both hyper-competitive, and they both wanted to win this game. This game was the second on the schedule for both teams and was played in Palo Alto. 57,000 piled into Stanford's stadium for this one. The Cardinal were the heavy favorites in this one, but the Spartans scooted out to a 14-0 lead. But when John found Emil Harry for a 48-yard laser strike in the second quarter, the Cardinal tied the game at 21, going into the locker room at halftime. Late in the fourth quarter, the Cardinal led 31-28, but a quick snap and quarterback sneak from the 3-yard line gave San Jose State the lead for good. The Spartans won 35-31, and the Elway versus Elway series ended 2 games apiece. John completed 24 passes for 282 yards and a pair of touchdown passes in this game. And on this day in 1988, the King won for the final time. This was the Crestar Classic on the Senior Tour, played at the Hermitage in Richmond, Virginia. The 59-year-old Arnold Palmer had not won a golf tournament in 3 years, but he found himself in the hunt with 3 others: Lee Elder, Jim Faree, and Larry Mowry. When he came to the back nine on the final day, he simply told himself he just wanted to shoot under par for the closing holes. And he did. He shot a 135 to win by 4 shots. It was Palmer's 10th win on the Champions Tour that went along with the 62 that he had won on the PGA Tour that included 7 majors. Palmer would continue to play competitively for several more years until October 13, 2006, when he played 4 holes in a senior PGA event and then withdrew. Now, in true Palmer class act fashion, he didn't simply walk off the course that day. He knew people were there to see him play a round of golf. But he walked the fairways and holed out his putts, but he did not record his score on the final 14 holes. Time now for today's non-sports fun fact. There's a line in the movie Thor Ragnarok when Hulk shows up in the battle arena and Chris Hemsworth's Thor says, "We know each other. He's a friend from work." Well, that line was given to him by a Make-A-Wish kid visiting the set that day. That's all I've got for you today. This and every episode of This Day in Sports History is researched, written, voiced, and produced by me, Steve White. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow for another edition of This Day in Sports History. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.